Hello, you're listening to Where What If Becomes What's Next from Carnegie Mellon University, where we're exploring what AI means to industries, government, society, and you. On this episode, we're exploring how artificial intelligence and robotics, including drones, are revolutionizing how we respond to disasters. On June 21st, 2021, a 12-story beachfront condominium in the Miami suburb of Surfside, Florida, partially collapsed. Nearly 100 people died, but there were survivors trapped in the fallen rubble, and residents were stuck in the dangerously unstable building that remained standing.
Literally within minutes of Miami-Dade Fire Department arriving on scene, here it is 1:23 in the morning, they're popping up drones with a spotlight package, and they're looking over the rubble, looking for survivors.
Robin Murphy is a professor of computer science and engineering at Texas A&M University and is considered to be the founder of and the leading scientific practitioner in disaster robotics. Robin and her team of researchers first started using rescue robots in 1995 at the Oklahoma City bombing, and then again in 2001 at the World Trade Center. Since then, Robin has been an active field responder, using robots, drones, and AI in more than 30 disasters in 5 countries. Robin also leads the Texas A&M team in Carnegie Mellon's AI Institute for Societal Decision-Making. So, Robin, 3 years ago when Surfside collapsed, first responders primarily used drones to quickly and safely assess the damage and look for survivors. Is that a typical use of AI in disaster response?
When the Surfside Collapse hit, they didn't really use ground robots. They had a couple of ground robots there, but they were the big bomb squad robots. The small robots the size of a lunchbox, the snake-like robots to get into the rubble further than you can do with a camera on a stick or a borescope. We didn't have any of those. In terms of robotics and AI, the number one use of robots, the number one star, are these little drones. They're inexpensive, got great cameras. It's an example of where these were developed for the consumer market, but because they're cheap and easy to use, that means that even if they're not perfect for disasters, they are, because they're cheap and easy to use, and you can have a bunch of them, and they're really good user interface. So now almost every disaster, you will have fire rescue teams, public works, other groups that are involved in the disaster using these drones. And the drones didn't get much credit, right? Because, they're tools, right? It's like giving credit to a fire truck. But it's great. They're now standard. They're now so commonly used, nobody thinks it's a big deal.
Got it. But using AI to enhance disaster response is a big deal. Scientists are using machine learning and AI-powered forecasting models to better predict natural weather disasters, such as hurricanes, floods, wildfires, and earthquakes. And when disaster does strike, whether natural or man-made, there are AI tools and robots that can help first responders react more quickly, efficiently, and safely. Drones are flown to assess damage, plan escape routes, guide rescuers, and search for survivors. Robots, some shaped like snakes or vines, are used to search in places that are too dangerous or too small for humans to enter. Swimming robots can dive into perilous waters. Other rescue robots can deliver supplies, douse fires, or clean up deadly hazmat materials. In real time, AI can also help first responders make better decisions about the distribution and allocation of resources, such as food, medical supplies, and personnel, by identifying the most affected areas and predicting where danger is going next. And then, after the disaster, AI can be used to analyze photos, videos, and debris from the impact to better understand what happened, create smarter predictive models, and identify vulnerabilities to help prepare for next time. Robin, how did all this get started? How has it evolved?
In the early days, what you wanted to do was just get camera pictures. Things that you couldn't get with a helicopter. There were no helicopters. They were off pulling people out to safety. And now what's evolved is not only do you get that first video and pictures to get that rapid needs assessment, what's going on, I can't tell what's going on, or how to get my teams into that area to rescue people.
And now, when a disaster strikes, what is AI's role?
Usually the first question is, what's going on? What's the problem? Where are the problems? And the second thing is, how do I get people? there? How do I get the responders and the resources there? What's your escape route as well? What's your evacuation route? And so again, that's where you start seeing AI play a bigger role. We also see it even in something like a hurricane where you got 2 days, usually 2 days notice that, maybe heading your way, and people wait to the last minute to evacuate. Well, how do you know which way they're going, which roads they're taking? Should I go ahead and reverse the lanes on the interstate now, or is it okay to keep the normal traffic flow? And so we're seeing a lot of work in AI dealing with those and in real time saying, oops, nope, we're going to have a problem. Let's try to solve it before it becomes a bottleneck.
It sounds like AI is taking a bigger role in helping first responders and emergency managers answer those questions and make better decisions about what to do in a crisis. Let's now welcome Aarti Singh, a professor in the Machine Learning Department at Carnegie Mellon University and the director of the National Science Foundation's AI Institute for Societal Decision Making. Aarti, at the AI Institute, how are you seeing AI making an impact on decision-making during disaster response?
Where we see it going forward, and that's where the Institute is working on, is really looking at how AI can bring the power of data to create the situational awareness that emergency managers, the public health officials need in these domains to be able to respond with more effectiveness, to be able to play out counterfactual scenarios, based on predictions that are made using multiple but maybe incomplete sets of data.
What's that look like during a disaster response?
So right now, all of these data sources come into an emergency manager's operating room. They have these big monitors, right? If you go to an emergency response center where they get these feeds in, but there's information overload. There's tons of information flowing in. If you go into that room, there are at least 20, 30 different pieces of data that are coming in.
Data from drones, robots, weather predictions, topographic maps, road conditions, responder personnel, supplies, the police, fire departments. That's a lot of information coming all at the same time. That could be overwhelming.
As humans, we are really cognitively challenged to be able to process all of that data in real time. I mean, timing is critical in disasters, right? So you not only need decisions that are, optimal or effective in some way, but really they have to be timely as well. So how do we trade off, some of these important issues while making decisions? And how do we create the situational awareness? That's where AI can help assimilate many of these data sources for the help of the emergency manager. For example, where to send resources, right? You may have, a certain amount of food, medical supplies, shelters, how to direct people to them. So some of these decisions is what AI can help enable based on both the predictions it can make about like weather forecasts, about how the flooding scenario might unfold, but also about the decisions themselves, recommendations about it.
So AI can help managers better optimize and coordinate resource allocations among multiple agencies during an emergency, right?
Right. So this is another aspect where resource allocation decisions are typically not centralized in a disaster. There are a lot of agencies that are operating on the ground, managing these resources, and they each may have access to, like, some are dealing with medical supplies, some are dealing with food, some are bringing in shelters, some are setting up kitchens, right, and so on. And there's only loose coordination between them. So many times the different agencies may not have the capability to collect all of the data that's relevant to their decision making, to know about what other decisions are being made. And so AI can act as this entity that collects the data, ensures that that data, or at least the relevant pieces of it to each agency, are made available to them.
As AI helps these agencies better coordinate resource allocations, can it also help them better communicate to the public?
Yeah, so I believe AI can help with crafting messages that are personalized, if not to an individual, but to a community, based on information that it might have about the demographics of the community, about their cultural beliefs, maybe how they have responded in the past. So we have engagement data on that. And these can be used to both customize the message, to communicate the risk better, and help inform their decisions in terms of whether or not they should evacuate, which routes they should follow, how to evacuate, and so on.
We're talking about how AI is providing revolutionary tools to enhance disaster response. When we come back, we'll talk about whether AI can predict disasters and hear from our guests on the ethics of AI and what's next in disaster response.
Within the College of Fine Arts at Carnegie Mellon University, we believe the arts and arts education enhances our world for everyone. Participating in and exposure to the arts helps all of us become more empathetic, well-rounded individuals who contribute greatly to our society. At Carnegie Mellon, we believe the strengths of the arts, combined with the power of technology, help us to discover how what if becomes what's next.
Welcome back. You're listening to Where What If Becomes What's Next from Carnegie Mellon University. Earlier, we talked about how drones and robotics are being used in disaster response, and how AI is helping in decision-making and optimizing resource allocation. Aarti, can AI be used to actually predict disasters?
Weather prediction is clearly one example where AI is being used. AI models are currently being used to predict weather, to forecast, how much you expect the flooding to be, which areas are likely to be affected. But I think where it is not is more in the decision-making side. And that's where we are hoping to close the gap from not just do predictive modeling using AI, but actually to make recommendations and help make decisions using AI.
Robin, are you using AI to help predict disasters?
Another aspect of AI that we're working with is that there are models, predictive models of disasters. HAZAS is a famous one. It says this area is, kind of red, green, orange if there's an earthquake, or red, green, orange if there's a hurricane. And it turns out that those models are really best guesses. And so two parts where AI plays a role is one is you can use the AI systems to say, if I only have a few drones or a few people in cars, police officers, let's sample. Let's see if this neighborhood is really damaged in this one. And if this one's damaged, then we know that part of the model's right. So all these other neighborhoods that are similar years, similar elevation, probably going to be the same thing. Okay, got it. So that gives us to help us in real time, like in the first few hours, know how bad the disaster is. But the second part of AI that's very exciting is that so now that it's done that, getting it back into that predictive model. So when we first started doing this, the experts were saying, it takes about 7 years to take the data from what we get at a disaster and compare it to what was predicted and then to update the model that predicts it for the next disaster. Why does it take that long? And so that part of it, again, is AI and these new models and new way of doing machine learning to do that. And so that's very exciting.
So now let's switch to AI's role in the ethics and accountability of disaster response. Do disaster managers and AI itself have any limitations or biases that may affect their decision-making or recommendations? Aarti?
Sure. So that is a particular example of a scenario where it's conflicting decisions that need to be made. On one hand, it's the emergency manager's family or friends that may be influenced by it, maybe they themselves, versus trying to achieve what's good for the benefit of the society as a whole. But I think the reason AI can help there is just by demonstrating what are the consequences of the decisions if they are made one way versus another, right? So it just helps create that awareness about how the outcomes might play out. It also helps them just look at other alternative, choices that they may not be able to think of in the spur of the moment.
Robin, you lead Texas A&M's partnership in the AI Institute for Societal Decision-Making alongside Aarti and her Carnegie Mellon team. How can AI help with some of these ethical decisions?
A recent conversation we had among our group, the AI Institute here, was talking about prioritization. A lot of times the first thing you want to know is where's the damage, who's in distress, and it's often vulnerable populations, the lower economic parts, the not best parts of town, they tend to get flooded more. So how do you design algorithms that take that into account? Not just what's optimally to search spatially, but what is socially more important? What is the true priorities? How do you start getting that in there? but how do you start reasoning and planning for that? Because that's something that we as humans don't do very well. We can't see these multiple dimensions and stuff, and trying to get that to let the AI systems do that.
And I'm assuming that means training AI itself with the right algorithms to recommend unbiased decisions.
Absolutely. And that's part of the deal is using that valuable social utility of this, getting the right values into it instead of closest people get looked at and examined versus neighborhoods that are farther away. And instead, also remember these responders, something very terrible has happened to their community, to their families. So they're trying to save people and trying to mitigate the damage. At the same time, they have to hope the rest of their family's doing okay on their own, that somebody's taking care of grandma and grandpa, and their friends are just devastated. So there's a lot going on, and it's a very rare situation. So you're cognitively overloaded, and it's easy to miss things.
Aarti, do you agree with that?
Yes, AI is not going to be used to make decisions autonomously in disaster settings. AI is going to create the situational awareness, make the recommendations, but ultimately these recommendations will be absorbed by humans. We are just reducing the information overload on the human and also making recommendations and choices that they may not have thought about.
The whole point of what we're doing at the AI Institute for Societal Decision Making is trying to enable human AI cooperation, take the best of both worlds. Sometimes the human's the smart one. Sometimes the AI is the smart one. Sometimes you need both of them working perfectly in sync, which is not trivial to actually make happen, right? To make the best decision. But it's not about replacing the persons, the emergency managers, not in the least bit. No more than a fire truck replaces firefighters.
But ultimately, someone has to make and be accountable for the decision.
Right. So I think this is where the fact that AI is not going to be used for autonomous decisions, it will be going through a human decision maker, kind of becomes important because ultimately there has to be accountability, right? We are talking about life and death decisions. So these are scenarios where if something goes wrong, there has to be somebody standing behind, or there should be an explanation for why things went wrong.
Robin, are there other ethical considerations around AI and disaster response?
What I think has happened is a little bit with drones, that not a little bit, we see a lot, is that it lends itself to volunteers or casual users, sometimes not very kindly referred to as disaster tourists. So I've got a drone, I'm smart, I'll go fly, I'll provide data, and then I'm just going to drop it off. And it's like, well, first off, you just can't drop off unprocessed data because they don't know what to do with it. And second, they don't know where it came from.
Looking into your crystal ball, what do you see for AI and disaster response 5 or 10 years from now? Aarti?
So I think in 5 to 10 years, the barrier for the use of AI as a technology would hopefully be lowered. I think this, again, relies so much on the educational efforts, awareness efforts, but also advancing the understanding at the intersection of human and AI, how they should be leveraging each other, when to delegate the decisions only to humans and when to invoke AI.
And what do you see for rescue robots in the future? Are they going to get smarter too?
Our institute has at least 2 members that are from robotics and focused on search and rescue robotics. So there we are actually looking at both decision-making algorithms that can help the robot make more efficient decisions as it's navigating to do the search and rescue operation. But more importantly, also thinking of the robots and drones as a resource and how to allocate those. Different robots have different capabilities. So can we make more effective decisions as to where to send them, depending on, again, the needs of a particular region, both needs based off of, how the disaster is unfolding there, but also of the sociocultural factors that may help inform the effectiveness of such robots.
Robin, what's next?
I think what we're going to see is, well, one thing is that if you have a building collapse or you have a disaster and you don't see robots, you're going to be, what's up with this? What? Why don't we have drones? Why don't we have the ground robots? We haven't talked about water-based robots, but think about the Key Bridge collapse. They were using underwater robots to go in and map and search for victims and do recovery there. I also see where what we see are things that take days and weeks to do get compressed to a couple of hours. That the AI, the machine learning and computer vision models are now getting better. Things are really going to take off, I think.
AI, robots, and drones are transforming the way we predict and respond to disasters. With the world suffering from record heat waves, horrendous floods, and extreme storms from climate change, AI can't come to the rescue soon enough. Thanks to all my guests, and thanks to you for listening. Please check the show notes where you'll find links to additional resources for this episode. And to learn more or contact us with a story idea or comments, please visit ai.cmu.edu/podcast. If you are enjoying the show, please rate and review us on your favorite podcast site and share with friends. And be sure to subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. You've been listening to Where What If Becomes What's Next from Carnegie Mellon University, where we are exploring what AI means to industries, government, society, and you. Stay tuned and stay curious.